Oh, hello everyone. Thank you for being here today at the licensing meeting. It is Wednesday, the 8th of July. My name is Conor Rouse, Councillor Conor Rouse. Just some housekeeping to start with. Please make sure all your mobile phones and laptops are switched off or set to silent. We are not expecting a fire alarm. If the alarm does sound, however, please follow officers through to the marked exits. Thank you. So on to the second item, to receive apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Martin Beattie, Councillor Don Birch, Councillor Jill Boyle, Councillor Andrew Brown, Councillor Peter Fisher, Councillor Mal Gray, Councillor Nigel Halsden, Councillor Callum Ringer and Councillor Matthew Taylor.
Cheers, thank you very much. Item number 3, public questions. We don't actually have any members of the public in today, so we'll move on to item 4. Item 4, items of urgent business. We have none. So item 5. Any declarations of interest from members on these issues? No, we'll move on to so item 6, the statement of licensing policy. I invite the report author, the Environment, Leisure and Business Support Manager, to speak to her report on this issue.
Thank you, Chair. Chairman, members, this report represents the revised Statement of Licensing Policy for 2026 to 2031 for your consideration and recommendation to full Council. The Council has a statutory duty under Section 5 of the Licensing Act 2003 to review and republish its licensing policy at least every 5 years, and the current policy covering 2021 to 2026 is now due for replacement. The proposed policy has been updated to reflect changes in legislation, revised Home Office guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003, consultation feedback, operational experience, and emerging responsibilities that have developed since the current policy was adopted. A key aim of the review has been to produce a policy that is clearer, easier to navigate, and more legally robust. Members will note that particular emphasis has been placed on reaffirming that all licensing decisions must be made by reference only to the 4 statutory licensing objectives, and that any conditions imposed must be necessary, proportionate, and evidence-based. The revised policy also strengthens guidance around safeguarding, public safety, the prevention of crime and disorder, and emerging risks such as spiking and serious violence. It provides greater clarity for applicants, residents, responsible authorities and decision makers, whilst ensuring that the Council remains firmly within the statutory licensing framework. Members will be aware that a statutory consultation exercise has been undertaken with responsible authorities, licence holders, businesses, residents and other stakeholders. The responses received have been carefully considered and, where appropriate, amendments have been made in the final draft. In particular, consultation feedback has helped strengthen the policy's legal clarity, accessibility and operational consistency. The policy before members is therefore considered fit for purpose, reflects current legislation and guidance, and provides a sound framework for licensing decisions over the next 5 years. Subject to any observations from the committee, officers are recommending that the revised Statement of Licensing Policy 2026 to 2031 be recommended to full Council for adoption. I would therefore invite the committee to consider the report, the consultation feedback, and the draft policy before us today, and I'm happy to answer any questions that members may have. Thank you.
Right, well, we'll move on to the members' debate. Does any member have any? Councillor Leith?
I think there's just a duplication, paragraph 2(1) of the policy. There's a paragraph which begins each objective, blah, blah, blah. And then the next paragraph, the 4 licensing objectives. I think the contents of those, you could just take one of those paragraphs, maybe. Just a minor point.
Thank you. We'll look into it. Thank you.
Any other member questions? Councillor Fitzpatrick.
Thank you. So we did have responses from most of the responsible authorities. They had, they said it was fit for purpose in the main. There was just one comment about a change of address for the licensing police.
So, yeah, but it was the percentage, obviously, that, you know, I mean, was it a high number of responses, or was it, you know, one response from each, or what? It's because I know we do these statutory consultations, and sometimes it's amazing just how few people avail themselves the opportunity to do it. And I'm always curious to know who's actually replied.
That is a very good observation, and actually it was quite low. But I would say in this particular case, although the numbers of responses were low, they were very valuable. And we certainly had at least 3 that changed the entire document by a high percentage after they had responded.
Thanks. You can guess the next one. Which 3 were those that did it? Because that's quite if it's changed the high percentages.
So those were premises license holders.
Any other questions from members? No, no questions. Okay. We'll move on to a proposer for the recommendation. Yep. Proposer and seconder. Yep. We'll now move on to the vote. If I could just have a show of hands. Thank you very much. The motion is carried. Moving on to item 7, update on general licensing issues.
Thank you, Chair. Members might like to know about emerging legislation, Martin's Law, which is coming into force in 2027. It has been in the pipeline for quite some time. It's just to make members aware that we have notified our premises to make themselves familiar with that legislation and what they need to do. It's, if you haven't already heard about it, it's to do with increased security around potential terrorism or acts that might endanger the public. And it goes right down to events that are temporary if they have more than 299 attendees. And so the legislation is going to be enforceable by the SIA. It isn't by the local authority, but we do have a duty to ensure that we signpost and make our applicants aware of what they will need to do in advance of that. So yes, just to highlight that is an emerging piece of policy that's coming in.
Obviously, we've quite a lot of temporary events around the district. Do you think that's going to impact adversely on people, particularly charities, doing fundraisers and organising events?
It is certainly a consideration. We have a safety advisory group. We're lucky that they are able to give really bespoke advice. And so what might happen is that if they meet this threshold, we would be automatically signposting them to the safety advisory group. We certainly let the safety advisory group know about any temporary events. And if they had any concerns looking at that documentation, I think they would be proactive in reaching out to those event holders. For general, village hall fundraisers and fates and things like that, I don't think necessarily it's going to make a change to those types of events, but very organised events certainly would come into scope.
Councillor Leith.
So how are you going to let venues know? Are you going to write individually to each pub, restaurant, whatever that falls into that category of larger venues?
So it will be on our online information when they apply. We will put it onto our application form to make them aware. It isn't something we can consider as part of the application unless it has a bearing on the 4 statutory licensing objectives. But we also have already put it on our website as an emerging policy that they need to be aware of. We will be writing to them and letting them know by email that they need to take action. Yeah.
Is there, what sort of measures are going to be put in place in policy? Is there?
So in terms of Martin Law and the statement of licensing policy that we've written, that was an area which was widely affected by the premises license holders consultation feedback, where they pointed out that we are only able to consider the 4 licensing objectives, which is true. The Section 182 guidance that came out in November 2025 actually asked us to go one step further and consider Martin's Law and consider, things that actually, unless they affect those 4 licensing objectives, we legally don't have grounds to do. I think it shows a direction of travel for the Licensing Act, but at the present time, the legislation stands. And so it would be very difficult for us at NNDC to implement something that could then be challenged in law. So while the guidance is there and it is a consideration for us in a wider context, in terms of issuing licenses or revoking licenses, we really do have to stay on those 4 licensing objectives. I hope that answers the question.
Councillor Porter.
So what would venues be expected to do if they did have more than 299 people present?
The actual guidance on that is still due. And there was a consultation that only just ended on which that final advice would be based. So it's difficult for me to say exactly what it would entail, but it would be things like managing ingress to the event, managing sale of alcohol, managing crowds, managing opportunities for an incident to take place. It might be that they would need to not allow rucksacks in, for example, or they might not allow liquids in, or they might have a control. It's all about the controls that are in place, a bit like health and safety.
So they'd be looking at private security or marshals and potentially letting the local police know that this was about to take place, this event.
The police are informed wherever there's a licensing objective, a licensable activity, they are automatically informed. But I think, yes, where there's a large scale event, the Safety Advisory Group includes Norfolk Constabulary, and so they are aware of every event that might come into scope. Thank you.
Councillor Bayes.
Quite interested about the 299. I just wondered if you knew how they came to that figure, because I think if you had 298, you still might have an issue occur, and yet haven't reported it. The other thing I'm quite interested in is any event that takes place where Martin's Law or any other law comes into it. Is there a recommendation that they contact our insurance companies, etc., because these events are one-off events normally, and I'm always quite risk adverse. One of the things that you don't want to be is put on an event and then find out you're not covered through your insurance. I mean, we're very much checking our insurance quite regularly to make sure that our risk assessments meet requirements, etc. Is there a recommendation from North Norfolk District Council when you have an application come in that they do check their insurances or insurance companies?
Certainly where the event comes into scope for the Safety Advisory Group, they would definitely be asking for that. There are certain licensable activities where we would also ask for public liability insurance, for example. The application form for some of these events would also include the insurance proof as well. But yeah, I think that's going to be clearer when the specific guidance comes out after consultation. Yeah.
Any further questions, members? Councillor Lee.
When are you expecting this guidance? Because this comes into force in April next year, is that right? Round about then, I think I read.
It is sometime in 2027. We are expecting it pretty soon. I mean, I guess there must be a period of them gathering and analysing the feedback they've received, and it only ended a week or so ago. So I don't expect it in the next month, but possibly towards the end of the year, certainly.
Yeah, I thought I read that it had to be implemented by, within this 2-year period, which made it something like April next year. But it can become later, can it? As far as
I think the implementation is at least 2 years, is what they've said.
Oh, okay.
So you're right. Right. I think that would be the earliest it could be.
Right. Okay, good. And there's more. There's more people have to do if they have 800 or more people at the venue. Is that right?
Yes, I can tell this is a topic you know much about.
No,
so-
I just read that and just I'd be interested to know what.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There are different tiers. So for most of the events that we would license, most of the venues that we have in North Norfolk, we're not looking at 800 people in one place at one time. It's more transitory. But schools come into scope, high schools, large scale events, festivals, that kind of thing. So yeah, there will be separate guidance to them as well.
So when you've got more information, will you actually be forwarding this to people that are applying for temporary events license? Because they will be looking very much to us for guidance.
And you're absolutely right that that's our duty. Our duty is to share that information with them and signpost them. We would certainly highlight it as part of the application, and we will have the information across our website. And like I said, that will point them to the Safety Advisory Group, who are going to be the core information providers from NMDC.
Any further questions, members? No? No? Well, as there's no press or public to exclude, I now call the meeting closed at.
Perhaps I missed it, but did we adopt the minutes of the last meeting?
I do apologise, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Yeah. Yeah. Can I get a proposer for the minutes of the last meeting? No? No. No. So proposer, Councillor Porter, seconder, Councillor Bayes, and accepted by all. Right, I call this meeting closed at 10:24.